Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to CloudFulcrum's webinar. Thank you for taking the time out to attend our webinar on supercharging Salesforce DevOps with OpsBridge and AI beyond traditional tooling. So I'm going to introduce our two speakers for the day. We have Vernon Keenan and Teja. So Vernon Keenan, as I'm sure a lot of you already know, it's a very well-known name. He is a leading Salesforce evangelist and DevOps expert, currently serving as a senior industry analyst at Salesforce DevOps.net, who honestly does not even need an introduction. And we have Teja, who is our co-founder of CloudFulcrum, a global firm in Salesforce DevOps. So that's what CloudFulcrum does. Enterprise DevOps and digital transformation as well. So our speakers for the day are going to take you through the next 50 minutes. I hope that's going to be really enjoyable and interesting for you. So I hand it over to Teja with that.
So before we go forward, I wanted to quickly introduce CloudFulcrum to all of you guys in the call, in the webinar. So CloudFulcrum is a DevOps transformation company. We are heavily, we work with customers to identify where they're having problems in their DevOps journey. How do we make it better? We are a strategic partner with most of the DevOps platforms that are in the market at the same point of time. In the last 3-4 years, we have done more than 50 plus, just on the Capado platform, we have done more than 50 Capado implementation, and on overall across all different Salesforce DevOps platforms, we have done around 150 implementations. Our expertise lies in figuring out where is your DevOps, where are you in the maturity model, how do you get better. We do most of our deliveries using value stream approaches, that is define where you are and what value you want to generate, or where are you in your maturity model, and so forth and so on. On top of this, we do have a whole set of products and extensions that we call OpsBridge. It is, I'll talk a little bit more about OpsBridge in the next few minutes, but we have code coverage analyzers, we have freezing of unfreezing users. So we build a lot of extensions on top of your existing tooling infrastructure or completely new tooling infrastructure, so that you can leverage or get more from your DevOps in general, just not from a release management or code migration perspective, but get more from it. We are primarily a services company with a flavor of products and extensions on top of it. We have around we are heavily into the whole nCino world, helping you set up your nCino, how to migrate your nCino. We have an entire portfolio or a capability around testing automations, how to implement testing automation, what is the right strategy, helping you drive value from testing automation. And again, as you can see, Capado extensions, we have Capado governance utilities, which kind of helps improve your Capado features, or kind of tells you which Capado feature you're using versus which you're not using. Feature audits, that's something that we are going to go through in the next few minutes. Maturity reports, and nCino readiness suite with CRT. Let me, Keenan, you want to talk about AI in general and what is it that we are here for talking today?
Sure. So I don't think you can go anywhere without, in the IT world nowadays, without noticing that AI seems to be taking over in some cases. And in DevOps, this is definitely happening in an accelerated way. I recently did a post on my website about how AI tooling, AI is definitely revolutionizing DevOps to a certain degree. We're going beyond traditional DevOps tooling today, and we're going to explore the unique challenges faced in Salesforce environments. And as we know, Salesforce DevOps presents its own set of complexities due to the platform's vast interconnected ecosystem, which includes sales, service, CPQ, and more. And despite the availability of, traditional DevOps tools, let's just say, Git and GitHub Actions and things of that nature, there's still a lot of slow processes involved in DevOps. There's a lot of challenges. I would say that the challenges collectively have a tangible impact on business operations. If what you're ultimately, as DevOps practitioners, as engineers, as developers, as Salesforce admins, we're all there to serve the mission of the company, right? We're all there to impact whatever it is that your organization is trying to do. And you got to think about how DevOps impacts that. And it's mainly, it seems like it slows things down. That there's a lot of processes involved, but they're very, very necessary. Because if you're dealing with a package like Encino, you're doing financial transactions, it's got to be done right, correct? So you have to have processes, you have to have CI/CD, but you got to make that stuff go faster. So I think what we're going to talk about here a little bit is we're going to reference some research that was recently done by Tricentis, and how this sheds light on some of the things that are now enablers in Salesforce DevOps. So let's take a look at how in 2025, they did a survey where 75% of the respondents said they're going to be using DevOps or AI in their DevOps tools. So we think that the things that's really being driven by this is, number one, accelerated coding. So if you haven't experienced the joys of GitHub Copilot or even ChatGPT or Claude as a coding assistant, you can learn how, especially I think for advanced engineers or seniors, it definitely gives you advanced capabilities and lets you move faster and hit that time to implementation metric that we're always after. You can also improve your code quality by using, you have to use the AI correctly, right? So if you're just generating code and committing it without testing it or without reviewing it from an engineering perspective, you're going to create more technical debt. So you have to use this stuff smartly to improve your code quality. And then I think one of the greatest things about AI is its ability to make connections between data items that we're not always used to. So this is especially true when you're trying to ferret out the root cause of a particular bug. You've got a bunch of documentation, a bunch of code, a bunch of error logs, and the AI is usually quite effective in actually correlating all that information together and giving you a good path to resolve your root process. So another aspect of that we want to cover is that you can use AI to increase your security safety. You can have it review your code for security flaws and other things like that. So I find it an invaluable tool in my own role as a developer. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to be expanding. I believe that you're going to see AI and DevOps together really increase productivity across the software developer lifecycle. So in the survey, we had 60% of professionals reporting productivity gains, and with also a significant portion reporting improvements in their testing and QA and security as well. So this is largely due to AI automation of test case creation and analysis. And testing is traditionally a labor-intensive process, prone to delays and human errors. People often skip testing because of this, because of the extra costs, and we all know that that's not desirable. So you've got a co-pilot and additional help here with your AI tools to help with your productivity. So we have all kinds of wonderful things in front of us in terms of tools that can be used, but I think that there are challenges. The number one challenge, I think, in people's mind that I'll definitely address here is security. So when you are using an AI product, you should conduct a security audit. Your CISO and your security team should be aware of what are the terms of service for that company that you're using? How are they monitoring your data? How are they or not saving your data? Do you have a contractual relationship with them about that? Is there any kind of auditing tools or news or information about the company that makes you trust them? This is perhaps one of the reasons why people might be going for Salesforce AI is because it's coming from a company you already trust. And OpenAI, I think we can trust them, but it's still just the terms of service by which you're going. And then I think the other thing we need to worry about is skills gap, that you want to make sure that you've got your seniors trained on AI, that they know how to use it, that they know when it's appropriate, when not to use it, and that they can train their juniors on how to use it as well, and that you can build trust and create a system that works for you.
All right, Vernon, thank you for that introduction about AI and how AI is going to uh, play a vital, important role in orchestrating your DevOps, or how it's going to change the DevOps ecosystem in general, and how things
Yeah,
are going to get better at it.
I think the one concluding remark is on AI and DevOps is that if you especially if you're in the IT operations space, if you're in the IT area right now, I don't think you can avoid it at all. I think that you're either going to be having a policy that lets you use AI, that lets you use one of these vendors that you can trust, or you're going to have a phenomenon we call shadow GPT, which is your techs and your developers are going to be using it secretly. That perhaps then you're going to have a data breach anyways. So I think it's definitely an issue for IT operations folks to get ahead of.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So with that as an introduction, everyone, so we from CloudFulcrum, again, as Keenan was saying, there are a lot of products in the market. There are a lot of good products in the market that are doing uh, that are building a great value to customers in terms of migrating their day-to-day release management or day-to-day code perspective. But there are all these auxiliary extensions that they are not worried about as of today, because they have things that they are trying to still bring value from a deployments perspective. So what for us, it became a very important mission here at CloudFulcrum to say, hey, we have to get better at this. So we created a small, well, it's a small framework now, but it's going to eventually, it's as we keep growing on top of this, it's going to be a big framework. We created a framework that is built on top of open technology stacks and AI, and we're bringing AI also into this whole thing to kind of build a platform which is unifying all your things together. So your traditional DevOps tools can help you from, hey, I'm done. I have a story created, to committing the story, to merging the story, to deploying the story, or bundling the stories to multiple things. So that's what your traditional tools can help you with. But we want to go beyond traditional tools. What happens after the story is deployed in an environment? How does the audit mechanism have to go? How does the um, uh, how does the monitoring need to happen? Do we need to monitor it all the time? So we looked at all these kind of things, and that's when we felt that AI can be a place where these things can be automated and these things can be made better. So with that as a mindset, so we started this huge platform which is now called OpsBridge, and the entity or the ideology around OpsBridge is, again, it's a place where there are a lot of apps that are available that are partially AI powered, might not be partially AI powered, but these are small bits and pieces that when you orchestrate them into the big scenario of your Salesforce ecosystem, they kind of help you in from a security perspective, from a compliance perspective, from an operations perspective. They can give you guys much better value to your investments. Or so with that, as a quick introduction, I want to go into the first thing of the OpsBridge product.
Hey,
The first,
Teja, let me just,
sorry,
can I just put in one positioning statement there? A great
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
about
please.
OpsBridge, that basically, you know, I talk a lot to Salesforce executives, and I carry the kind of the desires of the Salesforce development community with me. And it is a fact that Salesforce is weak on producing developer tools and tooling and other software and services related to actually deploying complex Salesforce orgs. And I think this OpsBridge product is a great example of something that is badly needed by people who are trying to do application lifecycle management, or are able to, you know, to do all of the management and all the little pieces that go along with Salesforce release management and deployments. And I can't tell you how much I think a tool like OpsBridge is badly needed by advanced Salesforce teams to just kind of put it all together to finish what Salesforce is not finished in terms of development.
Yeah, you rightly said, Keenan. All right, so the first thing that we want to kind of talk today, kind of work through, I'm going to show you guys a live demo of this, is the Change Intelligence platform. So the Change Intelligence platform is primarily that, hey, Salesforce audit as of today is just 6 months. It's this big CSV file which has maybe 100,000 lines or 200,000 lines or a million lines, which is not legible. Nobody understands anything. Now, if we take financial services clients or any of the healthcare or anyone, which is heavily compliant oriented industry, they have a huge problem. Now, I can't read through these audit logs, first thing. The second thing is it's 6 months. It doesn't ensure or it doesn't comply with any of my audit frameworks or any of the audit compliance, or even for the matter of fact, data retention. So this became a huge problem, especially for compliance related organizations. So we had a look at this problem, and we said, hey, can we do something around this? So that's when we came up with this Change Intelligence, and we added a small AI framework to it. I will talk about what we did over there. Now, then came our problem. Hey, if I'm going to dump all this audit intelligence data or audit logs onto Salesforce, my Salesforce is going to get bigger and bigger. It's just too much data. So we identified a mechanism on how we can store the data for the last 2 years, 3 years period of time. And this model or this retention period is something that the customer can define, saying that, yeah, I just want the last 6 months or last 1 year or last 2 years or last 3 years. So we did give that flexibility to them. And at the same point of time, we added a monitoring system and as well as an AI powered fraud detection with alerting mechanism. So how does it work? So the benefits of it is, again, enhanced security. It makes your Salesforce ecosystem more compliant. Now you're going to have a long-term data retention or audit data retention strategy in place if you are audited by PwC or Deloitte or any of the big auditing companies that are doing audits for you. You are fully compliant. Your Salesforce ecosystem is compliant. You need not go for exceptions saying that, hey, Salesforce is not compliant. We don't need to do that anymore. Again, effectively proactively detecting frauds and so on and so on. So let me quickly stop the screen share and switch to the demo part of it. I'll try to showcase that. All right, let me know once you guys can see my screen. All right, so I'm gonna make a quick change. This is one of my dev org. Consider this as one of my dev org. I'm gonna go into this account test trigger. I'm gonna make a quick change and say that added for a demo. And I'm gonna save this. So once I save this, this is our audit, sorry. This is our audit change intelligence platform. This can be hosted onto your Salesforce production, or if you have a governance org, or hey, I don't have any of it, I don't want to put any of this on my production, you can put it on a sandbox also. It can be hosted anywhere. This is like a managed package that goes and sits on your existing Salesforce. So you can do it against multiple Salesforce orgs. It's just registering, it's OAuth based registering. You can select one of the orgs. So the change I have done it is in the SEM org. So what we can do is here you can select the orgs and you can say, hey, fetch me the changes done by a specific user, or fetch me the changes that fetch me all the changes, but if a specific user has done these changes, do not fetch me. So typically all enterprise organizations have a service account that's being used to deploy code to production. So that way you can keep an eye on, track on things that are going into production and have a better control over things. And you can reduce the number of system administrators also in production. So tomorrow, if you want to say, hey, exclude anybody who is coming, all the service accounts, or yeah, just give me the dates change or the changes done by a specific user. So I'm gonna, in this use case, I'm gonna say, hey, just get me the changes done by a user called as Praveen Kumar Tota. And this search works dynamically. So it immediately goes and searches the source org or the org where we are, which was selected over here. And it looks at all the users that are active with system administrator as a profile, and it fetches that users and it gives. So you need not worry about identifying, hey, what is the full name, last name, nothing. You can dynamically type and we will fetch the users for you. Now, in the time period, it's up to you to kind of decide, hey, get me the changes that were done in the last 12 hours or in the last 5 days, 6 days. It's up to you. Yeah, there are multiple permutations and combinations in how you can get this data. And you can say, hey, from date to date, hey, fetch me everything from, let's say, July 1st to, let's say, August 22nd. That's today. And over here, you can say, hey, I want to just see the changes done through on Apex classes, triggers, or you can select the entire thing. Any metadata change that is done in my production org, I want to know. At the same point of time, you can say, hey, just give me Apex classes, pages, or custom fields, or custom tabs, or custom objects, or hey, just give me every time a profile gets changed, immediately notify me. Or anytime any session settings or any security controls are being changed, notify me. This way, now what we are doing is we are bringing the audit logs in the backend, and we are now segregating those using a small AI framework. We are segregating these audit logs to say, hey, is this related to security? Is it related to session? Is it related to what is it? And what is the impact it is going to have on the system? The AI framework keeps updating it every time there's a new metadata type or things. So it keeps understanding, or it keeps learning about your environment and your organization. So since I made a change to a trigger, I'm going to say, hey, fetch me all the changes that are associated to triggers and classes. Now, the good part of it is you can schedule it. You can say that, hey, I want to schedule this. There's some problem over there, but you can kind of schedule this and say, hey, I want to schedule this. I want to run every 2 hours or every 3 hours, or hey, I want to run it once a day. I want to see if any changes that are done in production. Or you can say that, hey, I want to run the minute run it immediately when uh, so you can say run it immediately. uh, okay, so let's say last 5 days, and we can say, so run it immediately, run it every 30 minutes, every hourly, every daily, every weekly. So what happens is now you can predictively, if let's say a resource made changes to an environment, and if you want to predictably understand something went wrong, then the audit framework is going to catch it, and it's going to send you an email in the next 30 minutes or in the next hour or daily, whenever you want, to say that, hey, this guy who is not authorized to make any sort of changes had made some changes. So that way you will be well prepared, and you will be, it's still reactive, but it's not to the reactive level that it's not to the reactive level where a user is now coming back to you and complaining that something is not working, something is going wrong. This happens all the time in your delivery. So that's one more simple feature that's available over here. So I'm gonna say Praveen Kumar Tota, last 5 days, and I'm gonna say run. So it dynamically goes against that destination org, and it fetches the changes. So if you see, it immediately fetched the change, and it said that, okay, uh, this is in UTC time. So it said that, hey, Praveen has made a change, so and so UTC on testing account trigger, and it was modified. Since it was a small comment that was added, it said that, okay, the risk factor is not so huge. But if you look at the Apex classes, since there was a logic change that was done by Praveen, or done by Praveen, it is considering this as a high risk item, because the minute the logic is changing, that means your data model is going to get affected, your functionality is going to get affected. So we are kind of understanding what was the change done, and we are kind of classifying, is it a risky change, or is it like, okay, I can live with this kind of a change. Now, at the same point of time, you can email this to anybody, or you can extract it into a CSV, extract it into a PDF, so that you can go talk to the user, that particular user, and say, hey, why did you make this change? What exactly did you do? Walk me through this. Why did you bypass the version control system, and why did you make a manual change? So that's how this entire framework works. Now, the interesting part about this framework is, once the deployment is done, the second part of the framework is the monitoring part. So once the deployment is done, this monitoring system gets activated on the component that you have just deployed. So I modified testing account trigger. So if I look at it, I have 4 records, which are kind of the old records, but immediately it kind of looks at these transactions, and it says testing account trigger. So it keeps updating these limits to say, hey, how much CPU time did you use? How many SQL queries are used? How much was your DML statement? So now you're just not knowing about your change that was done, but now you are able to immediately monitor the change that was done. Yes, things like if you have event monitoring system, which is again a very expensive piece of licensing from Salesforce, you can monitor your events and stuff like that, but you'll not be able to kind of pinpoint and say that, hey, I deployed I deployed testing account trigger. See, it started updating. Now, if you see, it has 5 records on top of it. So it starts updating on top of the component that was just deployed, and it starts saying that, okay, there is no change in the heap size. There is no, because we just made a change to the we just added a comment line, it's not giving you any change. So this gives you a historical trending to say, hey, before the code was deployed, this is how much mic CPU capacity was used, or this is these are the number of SQL queries that are used. These are the number of SQL rows that were pulled on. Now, after the deployment, did we get better, or the development that was done, is it actually that bad? So it's now this is proactive monitoring. After the deployment is done, smoke testing is done. So the smoke testing will immediately tell you whether the piece of code that was deployed, is it good or is it bad. So that's the way this entire framework works. It immediately identifies the components that are getting deployed, especially pages, classes, kind of stuff, triggers, kind of stuff, and it immediately tells. Now, the advantage is I don't need event monitoring systems for this. Event monitoring helps the organizations more from a data perspective. Hey, where did this transaction fail? What happened to the API? Those kind of things are much more those kind of monitoring can be done through event monitoring. And if the organization is not willing to invest on event monitoring, at least from a performance perspective and how your system the change that you have done, how is it affecting the existing system perspective, can also be looked over here. A good example here is before the deployment, there are 2036 SQL rows, but there was a performance optimization done. Now it's coming down to lower. That's with the heap size. If you see DML rows, everything is getting better. So this is how this entire change intelligence framework that is using AI in the backend is kind of making difference from your Salesforce ecosystem perspective. Anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to put in the chat. We'll try to answer them at the end of the webinar. All right, so going back to our slide deck. So that is the value of the change intelligence platform, what it can bring, how it can proactively monitor your metadata, how it can tell you if an unauthorized metadata change was done. You can now know immediately that, okay, this was unauthorized, somebody has done it. And now it is detecting fraud from, hey, this change should not be done. The framework can also identify user logins. So if a user is logging in from an unauthorized region, or if the user is logging in from multiple sections of the region at the same point of time, let's say a user is logging in from China, India, US, Canada on the same day, which is humanly not possible at this point of time. Now, that will create an alert, and it will send out a simple alert to the end user or to your security team saying that, hey, we are seeing logins from different regions. All right. So the next thing that we want to talk about, or what we have over here, is release assist. So the first thing that we want to talk about is post-refresh automations. So I'm sure everyone in the call has this problem. I have a huge post-refresh activity that needs to be done manually every time I refresh an environment. And half of the time, I don't refresh my environments just because of the reason that, oh, I have to do a huge post refresh activities, which are manual and they take a lot of time and effort, and it's just not scalable. So in order to solve this problem, what we have done was we created an simple automation framework that automates all your post refresh activities. So let me try to pull that up. Sorry. Post refresh framework. Let me pull it here. All right. So this is the post refresh framework. So it's a simple framework that lives and breathes into the same org thing. So as a post refresh framework, you can come into the org section over here. In the org section, you can create your own org and you can authenticate using uh, OAuth 2.0, and no username and passwords are stored anywhere, making it much more easier. Now, in the sandbox refresh mechanism over here, if you see, now we have a section of how you can do post refresh. Now, as a pre-refresh activities, I can come to any of the existing sandboxes. Let's say I'm refreshing a dev sandbox. I can come to the existing dev sandbox and say, hey, I want to create a new template, or I want to use an existing template. Let's say from your organization perspective, you have created multiple templates, and you have a template for dev, you have a template for QA, you have a template for UAT. You have that option to create these multiple templates or create a new template is also an option over here. So for the demo nav, I'm gonna say create a new template. Now, these metadata component picker, these are the common things that we have seen organizations do post refresh. So now it is going to the destination or the source environment. In this case, sorry, demo one org. It's going to the demo one org, and we have a list at the backend that looks, hey, are these available in this particular org or not? And it's going to fetch those components and it is going to show you. So it's, if you see now it's going to the source org, trying to identify the components that are there in the source org. So custom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can go into the source org. This is the source org. If you see, this is my demo one source org. I can go to system labels. I can create a simple custom label. Typically, most of the time, your post refresh activities are, hey, this custom label need to be changed. This name credential needs to be changed. This is the remote site setting. For production, you connect to production, MuleSoft or Boomi Boomi URLs. For dev, you connect to dev URLs. These things they are stagnant. They don't change quite a lot. So you can create these templates and reuse those templates again and again and again. So I can say, I can now go and create demo one. And I can say value as test. So if I go back to custom labels, since I have just saved this, it refreshes the component list again, and it now looks for that demo custom label that I have created. If you see, the demo one is fetched into this environment or into this framework in the matter of a second. So I can go here, I can select that, and I can say, hey, in remote site settings, I want to connect to some other Azure org, Azure URL, and I can say generate package XML. So what it is going to do is it is going to generate a quick package XML. And the minute you click on run, it's now going to the source org and fetching all these components. So if you're refreshing a QA environment, you can select the existing QA that's already there with all these values, everything, and you can create a template. Once the template is there, you can now create any number of QA environments using the same metadata types or same metadata that is part of over there. At the same point of time, you can also do something here, data picker. So you can say, hey, creating the users in these test environments is also painful. So you can say run the user list. It's going to fetch all the users who are active, what kind of profiles that they have, and it is going to start creating those users once the environment refresh is done. So it's going to run, and you can say, hey, custom settings. I want to get all the data that is there in custom settings and do it. So I'm going to say, just for the sake of the thing, release team emails and run. So now what it is going to do is it's going to now attach your data and the metadata template that we have created here together into a single template. So when you run it with on your new environment, it's going to run perfectly well. So if I go to details, I have my, related list. So it gives me the refresh template. So it gives me all the refresh templates. And if I go to my refresh templates, I can actually see the release team export in the CSV format that is required, and also the metadata zip. So I can download this metadata zip, modify it in whatever way or whatever direction I want. And every time I select this template, and I can put the same template on the next environment that I'm doing, or the next sandbox that I'm deploying. So we have sandbox refresh. I'm not going to go through it because sandbox refresh is now going to take 30-40 minutes. You can actually refresh your sandbox right from here. And post refresh, you can select, hey, use this template and deploy the code. So what it's going to do is whatever package that was created in the pre-sandbox refresh, it's going to take that package and send it for deployments. And it says, and it updates the status as deployed once it is deployed. So this is how you can automate your entire post-refresh framework in such a way that these are maintainable, these are easy to use, and you need not worry about understanding everything to do with deployments, and a simple administrator would be able to do this job, and it need not be a developer or someone who is doing this. All right, the next thing that I would like to go through is release calendar. This is a simple version. In the interest of time, I'm gonna try to reduce the demos from here on, don't take me wrong. This is a simple calendar mechanism that organization can use to say, hey, my releases are gonna go at this point of time. If somebody is not up to date in terms of releases, let's say it predictively tells that, hey, these 10 user stories which are slated for this release are not at its level to get deployed. It's gonna send notifications. Let me try to quickly show and not take a lot of time. Sorry. So let's say the UAT testing is about to end, and if that particular release associated UAT testing, or if a few stories in that UAT testing are not done, then it can kind of send a notification on the 3rd of August to the UAT owner, to this UAT testing milestone owner, saying that, hey, you have 50 stories that were planned for UAT testing in this particular release, but only 30 of them are fully tested. You are way behind your schedule. So it's an easier way. You can go and search by ownership. Hey, I'm dev lead. I just care about code cutoff dates. Okay, I have my code cutoff dates. I'm a DevOps manager. Um, uh, I am, so this, you can create any number of new milestones. I can say test milestone. What is the Jira status that is associated to it? So I can say in progress, start date, end date. It can be directly connected to your Jira releases. There's no problem in it. Demo milestone. So you can select the environment type. Which environment is this milestone associated to? Who is the milestone owner? Is it the DevOps manager or the QA leads or dev leads or project manager? Who is the milestone owner? And if there are any exceptions required, who is going to be the approver? And who needs to be an observer? For example, for the dev milestone, QA team needs to be the observer because they need to know what's coming their way from a dev perspective. So this is how the whole release calendar mechanism works. It kind of it predictively starts telling the milestone owner and also the next milestone owner or the entire team saying that, hey, you're about to fail, or your milestone is way behind timelines, or um, your milestone is not ready to go forward. It connects with your pipeline. It immediately understands what is a pipeline, what are the stories that are tagged to that particular pipeline, and it kind of gives you a simple prediction in terms of how your release is going, or where is your release, or where are your stories um, uh, uh, in the scheme of things. So that's a quick introduction about release calendar. So let's talk quickly about what are our Capado extensions. Again, Capado is a great tool. There's no question about it, but there are places where Capado can be used better, or how do you improve your Capado's life cycle, or how you can make better, how you can be better at using your Capado. The first thing is Encino regression suite. If as you know, Encino is a very important managed package or an important application for BFSI customers. So, but Encino does an upgrade to Salesforce or their packages from the backend every 15 days, every month. They kind of do this small bug fixes, changes, packages. So, whenever these kind of things happen, it becomes very hard for users to kind of do a regression testing uh, every time the package is getting upgraded in the backend. So what we have done is we have built a small regression test suite that kind of covers most of the Encino functionalities. This works on the CRT platform. So you still need to make few changes to that regression suite, but most of your baseline for the regression suite is created by us. So you can use that much better. Then comes shared component analyzer. This is a huge problem for all the organizations where, hey, Salesforce being a shared services platform, if most of the product teams or most of your business units modify the same components, same objects, same profile, same Apex classes, it has been a problem. Now, you're not able to understand who modified what until you get to the level of merging your code, or when you're testing your code, that's when you knew that, oh, okay, I have somebody from service team who modified the account trigger, because of which the sales team is getting affected. So in order to reduce that, we have built a small analyzer and a small mechanism on how shared components can be looked at and how it can be done. The next thing is Capado performance optimization. As Capado is being used by organizations so heavily, the performance of Capado starts to go down. There are many reasons for this. Some of the primary reasons is the data that's sitting on Capado needs to be cleaned up quite often. And at the same point of time, your Git repository, every time a piece of code is going from dev to production, Capado creates maybe 3 or 4 different branches for that particular user story. You have your user story branch, and then you have your promotion branches. Every time you promote that code from one environment to other environment, it keeps adding these promotion branches. So your repository is now very heavy. I mean, you will have, if you have deployed, let's say, 1,000 stories in the last 1 year, now your repository has 8,000 branches, which is way too much for any repository or any Git repository. So this identifies what are stale branches, what are long living branches, which doesn't have any changes. You can create an mechanism to automatically delete them after the piece of code goes to production. Let's say, hey, this story went to production 180 days back. Let's delete anything associated to that story. So you can create those kind of rules that can delete the changes. And finally, DORA metrics. I mean, if your organization is not using DORA metrics or any metrics to do this, I don't think your organization is serious about DevOps, or they are not serious about improving your DevOps. It's You're better off not calling your organization as, hey, we are a DevOps organization. We are doing everything in a DevOps way. No, you're not. You don't have metrics that are kind of showing what is the DevOps, or how are you doing with your DevOps platform. DORA is very clear in terms of this. DORA metrics are something that they are built across industries, across platforms, and Salesforce is not at all an exception for it. So I'll quickly try to show you guys a quick view of DORA metrics, and yeah, we can close this call, or we can go to Q&A from a questions perspective. Body you, ladies. All right. So this is a high-level view of your DORA metrics, how your DORA metrics should look like. The first thing is lead time to change. How much time did your release take? From the time the story is incepted to the time the story actually went live, be it from the story coming into the sprint to the story that time actually went live. This lead time to change needs to keep reducing all the time. The greater the smaller your lead time to change, the better you're getting at doing your DevOps, or the better you're getting your business return of investment. How many times did you deploy to production? You need to know, are you in a very seamless fashion, or you're all over the place? What is your change failure rate? This is how many times a deployment was done to production, and how many times you have your service nav tickets, or your how many defects did you get out of your service nav. Your change failure rate to production will tell about how better you're doing from your Scrum perspective, or from your development perspective, or it captures everything. What is the mean time to recover if there is a production outage or something went terribly wrong in production? How many days does it really take for you to um, uh, go back and fix your production? Right now, in this use case, this particular thing, it's 3 days. If something goes wrong and it's taking 3 days to recover, that means you're losing 3 business days of your business going out of they're not able to do anything. So for some organizations, that's millions of dollars of loss. For some of the big Salesforce organizations, that's millions in loss. So you want to keep that in hours, not in days. Just to give you an example, how many stories are deployed as hot fixes? That means how many P1s did you have, and how many times you had to deploy the stories as hot fixes. User stories per production, how many user stories did you deploy per release to production? Number of merge conflicts you are having in that particular month. The number more of merge conflicts you're having means that your dev team is not talking to each other. They are just writing code, they are just pushing it forward, and there is no communication between two developers. If your merge conflict is always going up, that means there is no communication between your development team, or between across all your development teams. How many deployments have you actually done in that particular month? This always have to keep going upwards, because the more deployments that you're doing, the more successful deployments you're doing, the more value that you are generating for your business. So this is a quick view of how DORA report should look like, how does the OpsBridge DORA mechanism. This is a plug and play mechanism. So you can take this DORA reports and put it onto your Capado ecosystem, and it can kind of give you how your ecosystem is doing, how your ecosystem was doing, and how your ecosystem will be doing in the future. So that's pretty much I wanted to talk. There are a few more products that we have, but we're almost at the top of the hour. I don't want to waste. I don't want to take any more of your time. Uh, we again, OpsBridge is a combination of all these products together. It is kind of giving you that visual view of, hey, from the environment getting created to the code getting deployed into production, how is my code doing? So it's filling those gaps in your DevOps ecosystem very effectively using AI. Some parts of it use AI, some part of it doesn't, might not need AI. How is your DevOps doing in general? These are the gaps that are there in your DevOps ecosystem, and these gaps are filled using OpsBridge. It's not a single application, it's a group and cluster of applications coming together in order to give you your business value.
And I just
All
wanted
right.
to emphasize the Dora metrics aspect. I think that you made a really great point there, Teja, about how it's important to have the metrics to do them and to evaluate them. And the lead
Yeah.
time is the one that I pay attention to.
Yeah. For me, it's the change failure rate, Keenan, because the badder your change failure rate means that, hey, you're not testing properly. That means it's time that you invest on either heavily on your manual QA, which is not something that we suggest, or you start thinking about bringing automation testing into your ecosystem so that you're doing a better testing, and that's reduced downtime to the end user. At the end of the day, we all work against a common goal that my end user needs to have a great experience when he
Yep.
logs in. He's able to provide better business value. So if your change failure rate is too high, that means, well, there is something terribly wrong in your process.
It's going to cascade into a bunch of other problems.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Feel free to ask me. The last slide that I want to show is, I know we did not get a lot of time to talk about the other aspects of the OpsBridge that we have, but hey, we are at Dreamforce, so come talk to us. We can go more hands-on in terms of your problems. We can understand it. You guys can play around with the applications a little bit more, understand how they can add more business value to your thing. Um, we are at booth T5 in the Trailblazer Forest. We are a dev-oriented customer, guys. We are not gonna push you. So we are at the dev zone. So please do come and talk to us, ask your questions, and yeah, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
I'll be
All
there
right.
too. So contact me if you want to meet me.
Yeah. All right. Is there a limit hit? Is there any limit hit event monitoring? Shashi, I'm not sure I got your question, but no, there's no limit per se, but you can create limits and say that, hey, if anything is hitting this particular limit, then you can get an alert saying that, hey, this is the limit. In reference to the package installation, it has been noted that it was deployed.
I think it just does that because orgs can do that. You just have an index of the org and it's able to reach out no matter what the environment.
Pradeep, no, I think this can be installed. Say this is like your managed package, right? It's like your CPQ or your any other managed package. So it's gonna go and sit. We don't have access to your data, Pradeep. Any update we do to the configurations or code or anything, we create a new version of the code and we share it with you for you to test it in your lower environments and then finally use it. But yeah, this is like a managed package. And I want to be very clear. Any of the frameworks that I have just shown, we don't own any of the data of it. These come and sit on your Salesforce ecosystem. So it's your Salesforce production orgs, your data. We have no access on your data. All right. Satish, I have a quick question on the wave component merge from one branch to other branch. Yeah, I'm not sure what was your specific question, Satish. If you can, feel free to send us an email. We'll be more than happy to answer your question around Wave components. If there is a very specific question around it. Dora metric, it will track how many deployments got failed, which component or test class failures. Actually, it does both. It does both. It will identify how many deployments got failed. It will identify how many components got failed, and at the same point of time, it will identify how many tests got failed and how many defects you are gonna have after the test after this is deployed into production. Even that also will be tracked in the Dora metrics. All right, I think that's pretty much the questions that are there. Guys, if anyone has any specific questions, feel free to send out an email to us. We'll be more than happy to answer them. And thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Teja. Thank you, Vernon. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone for attending.
Yeah, thank you.